Hi everyone, how are you all? Welcome to the lecture on how to become a lifelong learner. So I hope you all are doing fine. Okay. And so today's class is about becoming a lifelong learner. Now, let me tell you, young friends, you are going to learn, you're going to hear, uh, you're going to come across this term lifelong learning, become a lifelong learner a lot of time throughout your career, not only during your school life or college life, but throughout your career. Everyone is telling you be a lifelong learner. You must always upskill, you must always upgrade, you must always reskill. Uh, Everything is fine. But what is lifelong learning? Okay, what is lifelong learning? Does lifelong learning means that we have to every year take up new degrees? Is that what lifelong learning means? Is it possible to take degrees every year or to do courses all the time? Is it what we mean by lifelong learning? Yes, what do you think? Okay, so for example, and is it going to be practically possible? Uh, is it going to be practically possible even with online to take up courses every now and then? I don't think so. It is going to be possible, right? So it is very important. This lecture is born out of the necessity for clarity that I seek within myself. Because what is lifelong learning really? Okay, lifelong learning is not like you study maths, and just because you like maths and science, you study maths and science for the rest of your life, like you study the maths and science textbook for the rest of your life. Not really, right? So yes, a lot of people speak about, but yet a lot of people are speaking about lifelong learning, but no one has been able to define it properly. What is lifelong learning and how does it apply to your student life? How does it apply to any young professional, any young leader for that matter? And this lecture will give you that clarity. So, first of all, learning is a skill. No one teaches you, no school teaches you how to learn. And learning is not about, memorizing something, preparing for an exam. That's not what learning is all about. Okay, so we are going to understand this term lifelong learning, and this lecture is going to be a great investment for you because lifelong learning is essentially your mindset. So this will help you, this will give you tremendous clarity as to what is lifelong learning and will give you the mindset. You will look at learning in a very different way. So, in many ways, you will be unschooling yourself right now. And remember one thing, I will start with explaining the term and then I will recommend you certain generic practices which you can apply to any kind of learning. Okay. And eventually, you will have clarity as to how you need to approach learning. Okay. So, please be with me. Okay. So as I said, no one has anyone ever taught you how to learn? Okay. Learning is not memorization. Learning is not mathematics. Okay. Learning is a skill, and we're going to understand how learning is a skill, how it has evolved. Okay. Now, I want you to go 1,000 years ago. Before we understand the term in the present reality, I want you to go 1,000 years ago. Let's go 1,000 years ago. Let's understand what has been learning. Abhi, why has suddenly in the 21st century, in the current times, why has lifelong learning become such a buzzword? Let's understand that. Remember one thing, always question why. Okay, in your parents' time, you ask your parents, you have a conversation with your parents, with your teachers. Did they take a lot of degrees? Right? They did their graduation or their post graduation, or maybe they did some courses, etc. But now, why there is a demand for lifelong learning? And since there is a demand, that's why there are so many courses coming up, right? There are micro courses, macro courses, 2 months courses, 2 weeks courses, all kinds of courses, and people want to learn all the time. Why you need to learn? But that kind of pressure or that kind of buzzword was not in your parents when your parents were growing up. So what has really changed? And for us to understand the change, let's look briefly at the history. Let's look at the evolution of learning in a very broad way. Okay, so let's go thousands of years ago. Okay, so this has been the journey of learning. Okay, we all know that we started as hunter gatherers. Then came the agriculture age where we domesticated nature and we settled. We That's where first we were just wandering around and finding things and inventing things, etc. And then we became farmers. Then agricultural age began when we had societies and settlements, etc. And then came the industrial age. Okay, where industries production became the key. And then today we are in the knowledge economy, we are in the knowledge era. So 21st century, the today's time is called the knowledge era. Okay, why is it called the knowledge era? Can anyone tell me? Yes, yes. It is called the knowledge era because we are dealing with information. Your knowledge is democratized and decentralized. Okay, so we are dealing with information, and information is converted into knowledge. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, now what was learning during when we were hunter gatherers during the Stone Age? What was learning? Learning was equal to survival. Now what does this mean? Okay, now in this age learning was very important. Why learning was very important? Actually, we are very similar to the hunter gathering age, and I'll tell you why. Because they were constantly learning, they were expected to constantly learn, and even we are expected to constantly learn. And I'll tell you why they were learning all the time. So for example, if you are in that age, you are a caveman and you are in that age, you would realize that you had to constantly learn the environment around you. Okay, which berries are poisonous, which fruits are healthy. You need to constantly experiment. Okay, this fruit is healthy. Okay, okay, I'm sleeping all night in my cave, and then I come out and I see a different footprint of an animal which I've not seen before. So, which animal is this? I need to figure it out throughout the day. What if that animal is a tiger, or what if that animal is a carnivorous animal who's capable of eating me? So I need to figure it out. So every single day I had to learn, okay, what is this? Okay, how does it smell like? I had to do that. My brain had to do the pattern recognition all the time. So learning, if you don't learn, you would not survive. If you would be like, okay, oh, which animal footprint is this? Okay, maybe some animal. Okay, I'm not bothered. Okay, let it be. At night, this animal will come and eat you. You're getting the point? So learning is equal to survival. Hunter gatherers learned all the time, for food, for clothing, for shelter, for everything. And you see a similar thing happening with us, where we are expected to learn all the time. And I'll tell you what is the difference. Why is it like this? Okay, then we transition to the agricultural age. During the agricultural age, the learning slowed down. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Because in the agricultural age, now what happened? First of all, we domesticated nature. What did we do? We started farming. We cut down trees and we started farming, and we grew crops. Now, when the crops were grown, so we had to wait for the crops to grow completely, etc., and everything. So what we had to do, we had to settle, and therefore humans started settling in communities, etc., and everything. So when I understood, okay, this, so what is going to be my most important learning? What did My most important learning is going to be how the crops are grown. So if my father is a farmer, if my grandfather is a farmer, my father is a farmer, and I'm going to be farmer, I don't see any other profession at that time. So what I had to do was that learn from my father. Like my father has learned from my grandfather, and my grandfather would have told my father, okay, these are the seasonal patterns. Okay, at this season, this is what grows. That season, that is what grows. So there is tradition. Learning is tradition. It is passed on from one generation to another. It is more like inherited knowledge. Okay, so that's what agricultural age is all about. So that time learning was tradition. You did not have to invent something. You just passed on that knowledge, and you did farming. You grew the crops, etc., and you reaped the harvest, etc. So that time learning was about tradition. Then came the industrial age. Now, industrial age, when factories started coming, when industries started coming, what was needed? Workers, right? Who is going to work in the factory? Workers. Workers who can, workers like this was also called as machine age. So what did the workers need? The workers need discipline, the workers need knowledge, the workers needed diligence, right? Because it had to, factory had to start at a certain point. That's how production could be done. It needed efficiency. Although factories evolved over the years, the first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, third industrial revolution, what started with steam engine, etc., and everything, it electricity, etc., it evolved over a period of time and factories improved. But what was really common? Discipline. Factory needed to start at a certain time. That productivity was very, very important. Okay. And therefore you can see that during our school education system is very much a product of the industrial age, because your benches are arranged like an assembly line. You are expected to be productive, you are expected to be disciplined, you're expected to follow the instructions of your teachers. So that's what industrial age rewarded. That how do we educate people, like through schools and colleges, educate people so we get human capital to to make the factories productive, and therefore earn profits and prosper, and societal progress, etc., etc. So that is what was very important. So learning was about preparing for work. Like you can have conversation with your parents and they will tell you, okay, we had to we were learning to earn a livelihood, which jobs we can look at, etc. Okay, we had to specialize in something. So very important thing when it comes to education and you uh, is that specialization was very, very important, because specialization led to productivity. Now I'll explain to you. And the model that generally was followed was that learn, work, retire. Learn, earn, and retire. That's it. So life was, it favored stability. Life was very predictable. Life was very linear. Okay. So I'll give you an example. What does specialization mean? Now look at this. They're preparing a pizza. One person is uh, one person specializes in the pizza base. The second person specializes in decorating the pizza. Then the third person in seasoning, the fourth person in heating the pizza, and the fifth person in specializes in packaging the pizza, right? So you can see that if everyone is specialized, that leads to productivity, right? That one pizza can be completely done in 1 hour or 1.5 hour. Okay, so that was very, very important. It still continues to be important, but now we've entered like this old model, learn, earn, retire, has gone, and we've entered a new age, and that is knowledge economy. Now what is knowledge economy all about? In knowledge economy, knowledge is democratized. Now what does democratization of knowledge means? So as we discussed during the agricultural age or during the industrial age, what we had to do, uh, we had to rely on inherited knowledge or knowledge, and consider in agricultural age we had to rely on inherited knowledge from our parents, from our grandparents, etc. And in the industrial economy, uh, what was essentially happening was that knowledge was in the university, knowledge was in the library, knowledge was in institutions. But now with technology, what happened? Knowledge democratized. Democratization as in knowledge is accessible and available to everyone through the internet, through on phone. Like you can access research papers on your phone. You can access you can access new recipes on YouTube. So knowledge is democratized and decentralized. Everyone who has a smartphone has access to knowledge. Yes or no? So now when the knowledge is democratized and decentralized, what happens is that your ability, a lot of things doesn't matter. What really matters is that how can you connect that knowledge and make something out of it, or create new knowledge that is completely different. And that's what innovation is all about. So in the knowledge economy, you need completely different skill set altogether. And in this knowledge economy, and in the age of AI, what becomes really important is that you need to, what you need to do, you need to learn. Now what do we mean by learning? Learning means constant adaptability. Are you getting it? Let that sink. Learning means making your mind more adaptable. This is not the industrial age where you specialize in electrical engineering, where you specialize as an MBBS and then you can rest. This is not that age, right? Today, a doctor also has developed needs to develop skills in social media so that he can promote his practice, so that he can get more patients, so that he is trusted online, right? So it is about, having different skills, developing different skills, uh, also about expanding your mind, expanding your knowledge base, learning and understanding different subjects. Okay, that is going to be critical in the knowledge economy, right? So this is about the knowledge economy, and that is why your learning ability matters, because you need to adapt to the change, to the change which is so unsettling most of the time. Why is it unsettling? Because it is driven by rapid technological advancement, right? Technology is changing all the time, and therefore we also need to change all the time. But then what people generally do, oh, okay, I need to do that AI course, I need to do this, I need to do that. There is too much information overload, and that is your challenge. And therefore, in this situation, what matters is that you just can't learn everything, right? You can't do all the courses, etc. But you, and that's why we need to understand and we need to teach ourselves how to learn, and that is what this is all about. So now you're clear with the why you need to learn in the knowledge economy. How has knowledge evolved? The evolution of knowledge. Yes, everything is clear. If you have any doubt, you can put it in the comment section and I will answer all of them. Okay. Now let's move to the next part. Okay. So what is the new model? As we discussed during the industrial age, during your parents' age, the model was learn, earn, retire. But now the new model is learn, work, adapt, create, and relearn. And today I'll explain to you the practices that make this model really work. Okay, so so before we get into that, okay, have you come across the Google Maps, right? So I want to tell you something very important about your brain. Just understand this. Uh, so just like Google Map, for example, you are in the city of Mumbai and you are navigating a store in the city of Mumbai. Okay. Now you don't know which road leads to what, etc. But your mind, your mind has a through Google Map, your mind has a map, right? Your brain has not seen the entire city. Your brain has not seen that store yet. So the brain generally has an internal map. It is called an internal model. How the mind perceives reality through this internal map. Okay. So what happens is that, and this is a very easy way of understanding rather than getting into complicated neuroscience. So basically, your brain has internal map for everything. Like for example, you know, uh, this road is to I mean, this kind of road leads to that store. So your mind has a map also, that will be like, it creates a model of reality to navigate reality. Okay. So your mind has a map. When you add new skills, when you learn new things, what happens? Your mind keeps on updating that map. Okay. Just how Google Map gets updated, your mind starts updating that map. Okay. So whenever you learn something new, there is existing knowledge and your mind tries to connect that knowledge with it. Okay. Like for example, what we discussed right now about the store. So when we are navigating through Google Map the store, we realize, uh, okay, so this much time it takes to go to that store. Okay, there is a similar store there also, so we can navigate that. So your mind compares, etc. So there is existing knowledge and the new knowledge gets incorporated in that internal knowledge map. Okay. And so the conclusion is that you need to update that knowledge map, integrate new information, new insights in that knowledge map all the time. So that is very, very important. Okay. So now let's understand a few practices. How do you become a better learner? Now, I want to tell you something very, very important. As we discussed before, that initially knowledge was in the libraries, it was in books that were inaccessible to everyone. So, why am I asking you first of all to read beyond your world? See, you can consume information, you can consume knowledge through this YouTube lecture and through documentaries, etc. But one of the most important thing in the knowledge economy and in the age of information overload, one thing that is very, very critical, and that is uh, to understand is that we are in the age of information overload, too many distractions. Okay, so if you want to master anything, for example, you are very curious about history, what I suggest is that while you watch history documentaries, while you watch history reels, etc., that is going to be very surface level. When you immerse in a book, or you take notes, or you read beyond your immediate world, your mind will update that internal Google map of yours, your understanding, that will strengthen your learning. Okay. See, and the more you read, that is the first reason to read. And second reason is that when you read a long text, your mind has complete context. It can create a framework, it can create a story, it can create better comprehension of the topic that you are studying. And the third important thing is that, see, someone must have spent 8 years writing a book on, say, writing a book on wildlife, and you are wildlife enthusiast. You can you you can read that book in 2 weeks or 1 month, but remember one thing, you are reading someone's 7 years, it took 7 years to write that book, and you are consuming that in 20 days or 1 month. So you are getting it, it is a great shortcut to develop a very strong intellect, and that strong intellect is going to be very important for you, because it will give you two skills. First, that you are learning that topic and you are understanding that topic. uh, the second is that you are strengthening your focus muscle, right? Your ability to focus, your ability to sit in one place and to absorb information, complex information, is something that is getting developed. So read books, read reports. That is going to be very, very important, no matter what subject you are interested in. Even if you're interested in baking, just read books. Read books to understand. Read complex hard books. Always graduate through new books. Okay. Create a library of your own. Create read books that interest you. Widen your horizons. Okay. Next is take notes. Okay. Now, first important thing you need to understand is that your brain is not a storage machine, it is a processing machine. See, what happens is that when you store when you try to memorize, like you have to complete two projects by Sunday. If you keep that in your mind all the time, okay, I have to complete two projects by Sunday, I have to complete two projects by Sunday, it uses a lot of your mental energy. Okay. So what you need to do, just write down, make a to-do list. Okay. Again, when you're reading books, when you're reading academic books or non-academic books, formal education or informal education that you've set up for yourself, what I would suggest is that take a lot of notes, words that you liked, if you disagree with the author. So that is active learning. When you take notes, when you make mind maps, etc., you could take you could be as creative as possible. You could take notes just the way you want. Okay. So that will help you to process that information. See, whatever is here, you can't see. But when it comes on paper, you can see everything. So when things come on paper, your mind understand that it is manageable, because your brain likes certainty. So, okay, this is the information and this is manageable. Okay, I can deal with it. For example, two projects I need to complete by Sunday. I write it down in my to-do list. Okay, I know this I need to complete. Okay, I can do it at this time, or I can do it on this day. Okay, rather than keeping it in your mind all the time. So when your mind is not having these things, suppose you've read something or some documentary you've watched, your brain will start processing that. Your brain will start connecting the dots there. Okay, is it clear? And we do this all the time in school, right? We take notes, we're asked to take notes. But over a period of time, get into this habit of taking notes all the time. because it will give your brain a lot of space to think, to imagine, to create new models, to create, to dream, right? To be more creative. All right. Okay, next. Protect your focus. As I said, we are in the age of information overload. We are in the age of instant gratification. Your phone is always ready to distract you all the time. Notification, your notification that, first of all, shut down all the notification. You need to protect, to be a lifelong learner, you need to protect your focus all the time. You need to have at least 1 hour where you're reading something or watching videos, watching a course or a Coursera course, etc., uh, where you are immersed in something. That is very, very important. One focused hour, although you cannot intensely focus, that is not practical to intensely focus for 1 hour, but I will show you the trick how to focus better in the next slide. But remember one thing, you need to understand how to protect your focus. Okay, keep your phone off, uh, draw your boundaries. Focus is very, very important. Remember one thing, you might be a genius, but if you do not know how to focus, you're going to lose it. The focused person is going to win because there are enough intelligent people, but if they're distracted all the time, how do they progress? If you want to progress, you need at least one focused hour every single day, and you need to increase that hour. You need to increase that time. Okay. So remove all the distractions. Okay. Now, how do we remain focused? As I told you all that, so please understand how to work with your brain. Now, what do I mean by working with your brain? You need to understand something very important, something very basic and very important about your brain. So your brain oscillates between two modes: focus mode and diffuse mode. Okay. So during the focus mode, what you can do is that what you can do is uh, you can't focus for like 1 hour. That is practically not possible. You know, right? When your teacher is teaching in class, and even if the subject is of your interest, your mind naturally daydreams after some point, right? So what you can do is that there is a technique called Pomodoro technique. What you can do, you can have 20 minutes focused studying or learning something or watching something important, watching a documentary or learning something important, and then 10 minutes you take a break. Okay. And you do another 20 minutes focused hour, and then you take another 10 minutes break. That is focused and diffused mode. Focused mode will absorb the information, and in the diffuse mode you can take a walk, you can take a walk at home, you can sit near the window pane, etc. What really happens in the diffuse mode is that focus mode you consume information. In diffuse mode, your brain structures all the information, it categorizes the information, so that when you are expected to say that information out, or you want that information out from your mouth, your brain will naturally make associations and that information will come out. So this is something that you need to understand throughout your academic journey and throughout life. So don't force yourself, and if you cannot focus for more than 1 hour, don't be disappointed. This is biology, this is how your brain actually works. So whenever you take up anything, remember about focused and diffuse mode and oscillate between them. Okay, teach to learn. Now, this is one of the reasons why I have started my YouTube journey, because I learn a concept every week. I master a concept every week, and I love teaching it to you all. I love sharing it with you all because that makes me a better learner. So when I put this presentation together, or when I'm brainstorming an idea, I'm coming to your level as teenagers, as students, right? So what really helps is that I have to simplify it. Correct? I have to simplify everything and then teach you all, and that itself strengthens my learning. Like the agricultural age, the industrial age, the knowledge economy. I had to read up on it. I had to read books. I had to see examples and then come up with it. So when you teach, what essentially happens is that in order to teach, you learn it yourself better, right? You learn it yourself deeper. You understand the gaps in your knowledge. Like when I was preparing for this lecture, I realized that knowledge economy I did not completely understood through different lens. So I took more effort to understand it better, and then I could teach you all. Correct? So that is what is all about. That teach whenever you understood a concept, you teach. How do you teach? You explain it in a simple way, you explain it through a mind map, you generate your own examples so that you realize that you've understood it better, and you go to the person's level and you teach them. So that tremendously helps you in learning. Okay, so as I told you all, this is something that you can refer to. So also during the diffused mode, I want to touch upon the diffuse mode. You can also use your diffuse mode for reflecting. One American educationist said that we don't learn from experiences, we learn from reflecting on experiences. Now, what does that mean? Uh, you you might go through, you might consume a lot of information, but if you don't step back and you don't pause, you can see this boy. 1 minute. You can see this boy, right? You can see this boy here. Uh, this boy is this boy is roaming. He's walking in a park, and you can see the music, uh, the books, the ideas those are getting connected. That's how your brain makes sense of everything. So make sure that you have time to reflect. Okay, and then now this is how learning works. Okay, so how does learning really work? How does learning really work? So first is reality. So this is the reality. If you're navigating a city, you're navigating something. What happens is that you're trying to navigate something. So you have a target. Okay, I want to learn this. I want to navigate this path. I want to read this, etc. Then you experience, interact with the reality, as in your experience. You want to navigate on the road with your car. So you see all the shops, etc., stores, etc., or with a text. So where you understand, okay, these many paragraphs, these many subtitles, etc. Then your mind builds a model. Okay, an internal representation, like just how there are Google Maps. That's like a model, right? It's not actually the road, it's just a model to navigate that road. So similarly, your brain creates a mental model. Then you predict, like I said, that your brain loves certainty, so it tries to predict, okay, from there, with an information text, it could be, okay, okay, this is what I need to master, this is what I can read lightly, this is where my attention needs to go, etc. Then you take action. uh, if you are going to that store and navigating through Google Map, you eventually drive your car so that you reach that store. Then comes feedback. So you ask people, right? Okay, am I on the right path? Okay, so then you can ask your mentors if you're mastering a text, that okay, am I on the right path? Am I learning it fine? Am I understanding? Is my comprehension right? Etc. Etc. Okay, and then comes, uh you know so what happens in this entire process? Your mind updates its internal map, its internal model of reality, right? So you come to know, okay, this is your existing knowledge. So like, for example, you have certain existing knowledge in science, and now new knowledge, like science is branched into biology, physics, chemistry, etc. So all three come together, and your mental map gets updated, new competencies come into the picture, new knowledge comes into the picture. So this is how knowledge gets, this is how your your internal map needs to be updated all the time. uh, so of course, this is a way of understanding it, it's not literally a map. Another thing is that another thing I want you to understand is that your brain is constantly creating those models, new learning models. So this is how learning works. Now another thing is that we have to go one level ahead and understand what is lifelong learning, and the next slide is going to give you absolute clarity. Okay, there is this very interesting quote: the illiterates of the 21st century will will not be the will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Now, what do we mean by this quote? So, as I said, as we discussed, that in the knowledge economy, knowledge is decentralized, democratized. Everyone who has access to internet and smartphone can access knowledge. right? In fact, there is information overload. So in this age, uh, so the true illiterates are not the ones who cannot read or write, but are the ones who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Now, what does learning, unlearning, and relearning means? Learning, unlearning, and relearning means you already know what learning is all about. It is about updating your internal map, your internal model, and that's how you become more and more intelligent. What does unlearning means? Your unlearning is very, very important. Like old belief system, like from the industrial age, like most of the adults around you are from the industrial age. So they will tell you, don't experiment much, look out for stability, don't uh, don't experiment in other fields, etc., and everything. Stick to one field, do well, look your career as linear. Now they are saying, that makes sense from their experience, but the world is also speaking about that progress is non-linear, that the world is rapidly changing, so you need to develop different skills. So you are going to unlearn that mental model, that stability and predictability mental model, and replace it with adaptability. So that is what unlearning is all about, and replacing it with adaptability is what relearning is all about. So you learn something, you unlearn a few old beliefs, old concepts, etc., you discard it, and you create space to relearn new things. So this should be a continuous process, and this is the essence of lifelong learning. So is it clear to you all? Is it clear to you all? We've seen the evolution of learning from the Stone Age to the 21st century knowledge economy. And the biggest thing, the two important learnings is what? The first is adaptability, to adapt all the time. Basically, you need to adapt to a rapidly changing world and learn, unlearn, and relearn. What does learn, unlearn, and relearn means? This is a continuous process of learning, discarding. Unlearning is discarding what doesn't serve you, and relearning what is really important to refill that space with new information, new insights. So that is a continuous process. And that's what lifelong learning is all about. Not just knowledge acquisition, but learning, unlearning, and relearning. So now when you approach any course, approach any program, approach anything to learn on, a book, a documentary, a course, a degree, ask yourself, how can you keep learning, unlearning, and relearning all the time? How can you do not have to learn that subject for the rest of your life, but how can I, along with my specialization, also learn different subjects, also understand different subjects, also understand different disciplines? Why you need to do that? Because we are not in the age of uh, extreme specialization which industrial economy demanded. We are in a very different age. In the knowledge economy, flexibility is rewarded more than rigidity and one way of thinking. Okay, so I hope this is clear, and I will see you all in the next lecture. Thank you very much.